Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I am Sheila, the host of Essence in You, and today we have a marvelous guest. We have Susan Zummo with us today. And let me tell you a little bit about Susan. Susan is a direct access intuitive, certified intuition facilitator, Somo Pi healing teacher practitioner. She is also a Reiki master and interfaith minister. She is a highly motivated, qualified master teacher of higher consciousness and healing with over 35 years of experience. Susan originated the Ascension Energy Technique using her soul pattern harmonics workshop and has recently made her Foundation Workshop series available as a downloadable video training. Susan's book, Mapping the Inner Landscape, Decoding the Symbols of Dreams in Everyday Life, was written to help people understand the varied dream experience we encounter and how to make the most of what they bring to us. It illustrates the language the soul uses to communicate its plans and advice to us. This information can be used to avoid disasters and improve our lives and lives of those we love. Welcome, Susan. Welcome to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sheila. It's just a pleasure to be here.
So, Susan, how did you come into this? At what age did you feel the calling that you needed to do all that?
I think I've always been in it. I've always wanted to be a teacher, and I've always been interested in metaphysics, in the soul. And I just got to a point where I studied everything. I read everything. And I mostly was very interested in improving my life and improving the lives of people I knew. Because in my life, I'm the person that everybody went to when they had problems or for advice, right? And I wanted to be able to help them. And I wanted to be able to help them from a spiritual perspective. And so I always say that I'm not a person who was born seeing, born experiencing, but I am a person who pursued that through my whole life. So I've always been a student as well as a teacher. I've always been a person who's learning, even while I'm sharing. And I just opened up and said, let's get connected. And so that's what I've done. People think that the abilities that we have are very mysterious and, you get dinged on the head and all of a sudden you're communicating. That's not always true. It's not mostly true. I always say it's like swimming. You either have a talent and an ability and you develop it and work it, or you don't. So my feeling has always been that everybody's intuitive, everybody is a healer, and everybody can do what I do. They just have to work at it.
How did you seek out your education for it? Like what teacher or mentor that you communicate with? Because you've been a teacher for over 35 years. It wasn't that popular back then. So how did you go about finding what you needed?
Well, first, let me say that being old doesn't make you great. It just makes you old, right? So we don't go by age. But I first started reading books. I read books on self-hypnosis. I read Edgar Cayce's books about him. I read books about hypnotherapy, I actually read books about ghosts, right? Spirit communication. And in 1981, I met a woman in a workshop who changed my entire life. And she changed the course of my life.
Wow.
And she was my teacher up until, I believe, 2019 when she passed away. She was in her late 70s, and I loved her. She never taught the same thing twice. She never repeated information, but more importantly, everything that she taught me worked. And so I've followed her model ever since. As a matter of fact, the healing technique that I did, the Soma Pi, and the intuition training that I did was with her. She initiated created me as a master teacher.
I was going to ask you that.
Soma Pi is a fourth dimension healing technique, and it is very, very good. It works on the meridians. It works on the physical, the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual. It's particularly important for this time because we're in fourth dimension right now. And we're in a place where people are manifesting their fears in their bodies and in physical reality. And so it's a very fast healing technique.
So when someone comes to you, how do you assess them for what you believe would help them the most?
Well, we have a conversation because I use my intuition and I have a feeling about what I think would be the best way to go. But I like for people to make their own decisions. And rather than tell somebody we should do a reading first, or we should do a class, or we should do a healing, I like to talk to them and have them use their intuition and go by what they feel is the first and best thing.
And with that, they're probably more open. And with them being more open, everything probably works a lot better than maybe a little skepticism back there in the back of their head, I'm sure.
Yeah, I like skepticism. I'm going to tell you, I'm a fan of the left brain. I like skepticism. I don't think anybody should sell their home, quit their job, and move somewhere else based on what someone tells them. So a little bit of skepticism is a good thing. Questioning is a good thing. It doesn't mean being closed. It means being rational. And I think rational is a good thing to have, especially in this field.
Yeah. So I see that you also do the Dolores Cannon technique.
I do. I studied Dolores Cannon's technique. I took her online training a number of years ago. I wasn't able to travel to Arkansas at the time, which I kind of regret now because she's crossed over, right? I did the technique and the training because I wanted her induction, because her induction is so very powerful. I've done past life regressions for many years, and I wanted to move forward. And I wanted to use her technique for progressions. So it's a very powerful healing technique. And I wanted to use it so that we could go ahead, we could go forward and progress into either the future of this life or the future of other future lives, and see what's ahead for people. So I enjoy it for that.
So when you do the progressions, is there a certain, I guess I'm wondering how it's done. Is it the same as a regression, but you're just going forward, like you said, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. It's pretty interesting. I will say that a lot of times we don't end up in a lifetime. We end up in the place in between, or we end up in a place that's so far in advance that there's really not a physical existence. So it's very interesting. I've progressed people and I say, "Where are you?" And they say, "Well, I'm really not anywhere." I'm like, "Okay, so what does your body look like?" "I don't have a body. I'm just a consciousness, and I'm in light, and I belong to a group of consciousness, and here we are." And then sometimes it just depends. Sometimes the higher will come in and say, "No, we're not going to do that. They need to focus on the here and now."
With that, I know everyone wants to, I'm assuming everyone, including myself, always wants to know what their sole purpose is. So in that particular situation, do they find what their sole purpose is? And if so, how would you know that is your sole purpose?
They do. And I think for a lot of people, it's kind of a letdown because everyone assumes that their sole purpose is some grand task that they have not accomplished yet. And sole purpose, generally speaking, is just an overriding learning that we've come in with, or task that we've come in with. So for a lot of people, sole purpose honestly is about learning how to love themselves. Sole purpose can be about learning forgiveness for self. Sole purpose may be, being available to share knowledge with others. I find that sole purpose is different from having a task. Right? So you come in with a purpose, and your purpose may be to learn to love self, or to forgive self, or to understand your own value, right? Your soul doesn't really care how you execute that. So, you can learn self-love through a terrible relationship or through a great relationship, because it's what we bring back to ourselves, right? So your soul isn't really particular about whether you're going to have a wonderful experience or a terrible one. The learning is what matters, and the progress in the learning is what matters. Now, some of us come in with a task impressed upon us. For those of us who have a task impressed upon us, we can sometimes confuse that with soul purpose. Right. So most of the people that are in your field, right, doing what you're doing, the podcasting, most of the teachers that I encounter, myself included, we came in with a task. Many people incarnated right now have had a task impressed upon them, and that task is to assist in the ascension of the planet and humanity, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we feel that no matter what we're doing in our lives, we have this other purpose that we have to do. Not everybody has that, you see? So purpose is your sole purpose could be to resolve karma with your family. It
Mm-hmm.
could be to heal your bloodline. It could be to travel and gain experiences, right? It could be to write. It could be to take care of children. That could be your sole purpose. But if you have that mission feeling, that's when you have that task impressed on you. Does that make
Mm.
sense?
Yes, it makes a lot of sense.
And
A
I know,
lot of sense.
don't you?
Huh?
You have that impression.
Yeah, I do. Hence, the
Yeah.
essence in you was born.
Yes. It's funny because people always say, "Why are you so driven?" Right?
Hmm.
That's what drives you.
Yeah, and not only that, you enjoy it.
Of
So
course.
it's not like it's a task like, oh, I gotta go do this. I enjoy listening, learning, and talking to people and just getting those nuggets, like how you're dropping right now, just getting those nuggets so they can all stay up in here. And if I'm feeling those nuggets, I know I want everybody else to hear it, share it. It may not resonate with you, but then again, it may, so
Right.
who am I to not put the information out that someone else has to say? Or your knowledge as far as like your book. You talk about dreams. You're a healer. You're a Reiki master. You're all those things encompassed in one, and that's so much knowledge that you have that I just felt people needed to know. So hence that's why I contacted you.
Okay. Now, see, when I got your email, all I had to do was feel into it, and
Mm.
I knew right away. I was like, yeah, okay. Had no idea what you did, who you were. I just went by the feeling and the frequency that was in the communication, and I just knew you were going to be wonderful. And of course, you
Oh,
are.
so are you.
Well, and that's why, that's why we resonate, of course,
Hmm.
right? So I
Right.
think it's absolutely fantastic. I love that you said something about it's a pleasure, it's a joy. If you are in alignment with your purpose and your task, or either one, it is joyful. And
Hmm.
so if you're miserable, you're not doing your purpose. Right,
Hmm.
you're
Yeah.
not here fulfilling your task. And so that's a really important point, especially now. I think
Hmm.
especially now for people, sometimes we can't change what we're doing.
Hmm.
Sometimes we might not be able to change our job in the moment or change our
Hmm.
circumstances, but we can change our perspective by understanding our purpose for being.
And that makes all the difference. You
It
look at
truly
things
does.
different and you treat things differently and you just feel different. You don't look at it as, again, a chore or
Right.
I got to talk to somebody else again. I don't ever feel like that. I'm like,
Right?
well, let's go. Let's see. Let me write my notes. Let's do my homework.
Seriously, it's so exciting, isn't it? It's the
Hmm.
best thing we do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's how you grow. You don't stay stagnant. You keep your mind going. You keep all those wheels turning and lubricated. We're not getting any younger. We just got
True.
to keep it moving. Lift those
Yeah,
weights. The weights in here.
you have to. We don't
Yeah.
want to become stagnant. I met a
No.
man once, a teacher, and he had a wonderful technique. And I said, "Oh, you must be so happy. You must do it all the time." And he said, "Oh, I don't do anything anymore. I don't have any lessons left to learn." And I just I smiled at him and never saw him again.
There's always something to learn.
Right?
Life lessons, period, is always something, even if it's a new species of an ant or a spider or a bird.
Of
Always
course,
something
new
to learn.
experiences. I just thought, oh, God, never let me be like that. No.
Mhm. Well, I did mention your book. So tell us about your book.
So I wrote the book because it was a course that I taught for many years. And I thought, I get pretty bored pretty quick. I have to say, I said, I'm tired of teaching this class. I expanded it. I did everything I could with it. And I thought, but there's still a lot of good information in here. So I thought, I'm just going to write a book, and I'll write the book, and then I don't have to teach the course, and everybody can use it and work on their own. And the reason that I liked the course when I developed it, and I love the book, is because I've been a dreamer, an interpreter of dreams my entire life. And 90% of the dream books that I bought did not work for me. And I would look at the symbol and I would say, well, that doesn't feel right. That doesn't sound right. And I was doing a Reiki treatment back in the 90s, and I was working on an individual who had tennis elbow. And she looked at me and she said, well, why do I keep getting this? And my first thought was, oh, I have to go get my dream book, my Louise Hay book, so I can
Mm-hmm.
give her an answer.
Mm-hmm.
And my intuition laughed at me and said, no, you don't. So I asked my intuition. I said, well, where is this coming from for her? And I gave her the information. And oh yeah, that's right on. So then I started working with my teacher. She was the one who said that everything in life happens house, car, body. First the house, then the car, then the body. And she started talking about symbolism. And I thought, oh, this is brilliant. So I started putting together my own process on how to interpret my dreams. And so, which is what the book talks about. How does the car relate to your body? Everything's you. The house is you, the car is you, your body's you. But the trick is to listen to what your higher in the universe is telling you before it lodges in your body. Because once it gets into the body, you kind of stop cold at that point, right? It's in the acute phase. But if you can read the signs that are in the world all around us and understand that you create your own experience, you can catch things early. So I'll give you an example. When I was married to my second husband, we bought a car. He was a carpenter. He put 2x4 in my car, hit the brakes, and the wood shifted and it cracked the windshield. And I was not happy. Okay. I didn't think anything about it, right? We went and got the windshield fixed. A while later, we got a new car and got in the car. A rock hit the windshield and the windshield cracked. And I thought, well, okay, something's going on here. After we divorced, I got my own car. Right. And as soon as I got in the car, the windshield cracked. And my daughter, who had in the previous car, the glove box never worked and the window used to not go down all the way. Got in the new car, and my daughter, I think she was probably 7 at the time, opened up the glove box and went, wow, Mom, look. Opened up the glove box, it fell right out. Went to roll down the window, the handle came off, and yes, the windshield cracked. And I said to her, okay, Mommy's not going to start the car. We're not going anywhere until I figure this out, right? Well, I sat down and I said, well, what's going on? Well, what was going on was I did not want to see what was going on in my life at that time. I did not want to be aware of the fact that my marriage was falling apart, that this was not a healthy relationship, and that life is going to be very different than what I had planned. And the more I didn't want to look at it, the more that repetition kept happening. And I was fortunate because it didn't come into my body. And so I started to make changes in my life.
That is very interesting.
It is. It is. You can tell everything that you ever want to know about a person without even tuning in, right? Just look at what's happening. I always get amazed when people tell me they've had a car accident. right? I'm like,
Mhm.
really? Well, what happened? Where'd you get hit? Right. And when they start to give me the details, that tells me everything about their life I need to know, you see, because the right side of the car is the masculine, the left side's the feminine. The back is the
Oh,
past, the front is the future. You see?
wow.
So think about that, right? Think about what the car does. What does the engine do? That's the heart. What
Mhm.
does the thermostat do? Right? That's the temperature, right? So overheating in a car, that's a lot of anger. So I love to do that because it tells me things about the person that I'm talking to without me tuning in. I consider
Mhm.
that an invasion of privacy, right? But if they're talking, I know what the symbols mean. For
Right.
me, it's just a way of decoding life. So I
And you
see your
know what?
wheels turning.
Yes. Because what comes to mind is nothing happens by coincidence. Everything
Right?
happens for a reason. And so that's why my wheels like, man. So that's what I that's what my wheels were turning.
It's absolutely true, though. There are no coincidences.
Holy cow. I'm going to be looking out for everything now. Like, that is
Seriously,
so phenomenal. I love that. I love that.
you're going to learn so much. You'll appreciate so much about people and about life. And really, the whole idea is to make life easier for us, right?
Hmm.
So that
Hmm.
when you're aware, if you're a person who wants to learn, you'll learn from everything and anything. If you're a person who wants to know, then things are always going to talk to you so you can know them,
Hmm.
right? So
Hmm.
if you want to know what the world is telling you, it will talk to you.
I totally believe that. For one, if you stay present and pay attention, then you notice little things. Like prime example today. I know this probably is off topic, but there was two birds that were in the middle of the street today. And they were just going back and forth, like going in circles. Like one would go this way, they would go that way, then they go that way. Then one would jump on the curb, then the other one would go that way, then he'll jump back down, or he or she. And they were just going. I was like, I wonder what they're up to. And then I looked at the top of my neighbor's, because this was across the street, of course, on top of a rooftop, and there was one bird up there. I said, I think they're trying to buy for her attention. Because it was so odd. I was like, what are they doing? And they did it for at least 20 to 30 minutes.
Oh my
Because
gosh.
I know it didn't make any
Oh my
sense,
goodness.
but I guess to them it did. But I would have never paid attention to that prior. I would just be
Hmm.
like, "Oh, okay, there's birds in the street," and just kept it moving. But I actually stopped and watched them.
So what did that experience give you in that moment? Did it tickle you? Did it bring you joy?
It tickled me. It and brought me joy at the same time because I thought it was funny, but I was smiling. So it made me happy, but it made me curious, like, what are you guys up to?
Hmm.
you
I
know?
think that's fantastic. And
Hmm.
and really, I mean, if you think about it, think about people who are vying for attention and how
Hmm.
foolish they look a lot of times,
Yeah.
right? They do
I
look
was
pretty
just,
silly.
yeah, yeah. I was telling a individual today, I was like, why are you even doing that to impress somebody?
Oh, look at
Why?
that.
So, oh,
Look at that. You just
I
made the
just did.
connection too.
Just did. Why waste your time?
Right?
My gosh,
You got it.
girl.
You got it. You did.
Wow.
That's what we're talking
Wow.
about. That's the connections right there.
And it was my cousin who I was talking to. I was like, why? Oh
Yeah.
my, isn't that something?
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah. You,
oh, got goosebumps.
well, because true is true. You might have to share that bird story with her.
Yeah, I am. I'm going to. I will say, you know what? This is what that means.
There's your
Now you know.
confirmation.
Yes. Yep. It really is. So for people that do have dreams, all of us have dreams, but I don't remember mine. I always thought I didn't dream. And then if I did have a dream, it's probably because I ate late and it was like a nightmare. But how can you try to recall those dreams, or if you can? I remember as a child I used to have one dream over and over again. And I know this is going to be morbid, but I'm from Erie, Pennsylvania, and we had a
Hmm.
lot of snow. And it was a recurring dream. And I had to be about maybe 6, 7, 8. And then there was a snow mound. And, for some reason, my mom slid underneath the school bus. I can't say if she, I don't think it ran over her, but she would just slide underneath the school bus and I just wouldn't see her anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But that was a recurring dream. And then as I got older, it stopped. But I always
Yeah.
wondered, like, what does that mean? And I could never find that in any dream book, as to what the significance that is. But for those people that don't or can't recall any dream, even though we're supposed to have them, how can they do that?
Well, first I want to talk about your dream.
Okay.
Okay, and then I'll answer your question, if you're okay with that. When you had that recurring dream, what was the feeling that you had when you woke up or experienced it?
Trying to save her.
Okay. All right. Because I want to tell you, as soon as the energy comes in, it hits my nose and it
Mm-hmm.
goes like that. So excuse me. As soon as you started talking, I heard that was a past life. Absolutely past life remembrance.
Mm-hmm.
And you lost your mom. You
Mm-hmm.
lost her in that other life. And the remembrance of was that you wanted to save her. If I could have saved her, life would be different. If I
Mm-hmm.
could have helped her, life would be different. Those are echoes of past lives that we carry in with us. Because remember, as children, we don't have that separation between this life and the other life. It's all right there. And then as we get older and we move further into the left brain world, where we're going to school, we're focused on daily life, we're focused on the family and the here and now, those things fade. But
Mm-hmm.
very much a very strong past life remembrance. And I will tell you, in that life, you were her mother. She was the child. And so that's why it really stuck with you, because you can imagine the feeling of the loss of a child, and I could have prevented it. So, and of course you couldn't have, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because no matter what we do, you can never stop a child from running into the street and getting hit by a car. You
Yeah.
can't protect them like that. But any parent will go over it a million times in their mind, and it will have a lasting impression on the whole rest of their life. So that's where that came from. As far as your question about dreaming and recall,
Mm-hmm.
my experience is if you are an individual who has an extremely active and creative life, if you're a meditator, if you're a visualizer, you're probably not going to dream a lot because it's in your consciousness, right? You don't
I
need
do
to
all
have your
that.
subconscious talk to you.
I
you
do all
know,
that.
that's it. For people who are not, then they have a lot of dreams, and then there are people who, God bless them, they don't work in the outer world, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So they're in that place all the time, and so their dreaming and waking life kind of bleeds into each other, and so
Mm-hmm.
they dream and they have an extremely creative life. But for those who have more of a delineated life, where I have my day life and my night life, not recalling dreams is not that big of a deal, because dreams are where we have experiences that we normally wouldn't have.
Mm-hmm.
They're where our intuition talks to us, where it normally wouldn't get to. They're where our unseen help and relatives will visit us where they normally wouldn't get to. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're kind of doing all that in during the day, you don't need to be doing it at night. Your body's just like, you know what? I'm just going to go out and rest.
So would deja vu fit into that too? Or again, as a child, I used to have deja vu a lot. And every now and then I'll get it, but it hasn't. It's been many years. But would that still play into that dream, or is
It
that a
can.
very, what do you call it? Parallel lives, maybe, or.
It can. There's a couple things about deja vu. People who have deja vu, their whole, no, I'm take it back. I'm being corrected. People who have deja vu are in a repeat cycle until
Mm-hmm.
they either break that cycle and go off in a new direction, or they have a repeat life.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times people who experience deja vu will say, I feel like I'm having a repeat, right? I've done this, I've done this, I've done this. It's a repeat life, which is a very frustrating feeling. When you stop having deja vu, it's because you've gotten off of that track and you've moved in a new direction. It can also be where timelines intersect.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's not constant, but you're like, they could be what I call nexus points,
Mm-hmm.
where you're in the same you're in the same time space, but you're having the same experience in different places. So the you who exists in different places at different times is having an extreme experience, and you're all feeling it. And because you're all feeling it, you get that deja vu. So there's a lot of different reasons for it. I would have to say it depends on the experience, the individual, and the circumstances.
So much knowledge, like I said, so much knowledge you have. And you know what? When you mentioned about me probably being the mother and my mom, my daughter. So in some ways, because my mom passed away at 49, so she passed away early. That would you I equate that also with that. Me
Yeah.
trying to save her. Well, I couldn't because she passed of cancer, but the
Mm-hmm.
same, I thought I was like, maybe it was preparing me for that, for later on in my life for when that happened. Because, no one likes to lose someone that's very close to them, let alone their mom
No.
or their dad.
No. And for you, I think it was a healing of that past life, because here's a circumstance for you to really experience how it's not your journey. It's not something that we can control, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We can't control the circumstances of another person's life. We'd like to
Right.
think we can. We'd like to try to, especially if we love them. But at some point, we all have to learn to let go of that, whether you're a parent or a child or a friend, right? Or even in a work situation, there are so many times in our lives where we want people or experiences to be what we want them to be, whether it's for us or for them. And we can't make it happen because it's not our job. It's not in our, the corporate says it's not in your circle of influence,
Right.
right? Your circle of control. Well, it's kind of true, but there's something inside of us, especially if you're a fixer, like a lot of
Mm-hmm.
healers are, that you still want to try it anyway. You're like, I can do it. I know I can do it.
Let me just give them this piece of advice and maybe they'll, be able to maneuver and listen.
Yeah, right. So for us, letting go is really the big learning.
Yeah.
You know,
I have
it's
learned to
really
step
is.
back. They have their own soul contract that they have with whoever or whatever because that's what they brought into for them to learn any of their life lessons. So,
Yeah. And for you, it was a blessing. I'm going to say it that way because it wasn't sudden. It wasn't as the result of an accident or a shock,
yep,
right? So
yep,
you had time to prepare yourself and
yep.
to work through the grief ahead of time. So it really was a progression from that experience. I hope you're okay with me talking about personal stuff.
Yeah, no, it's
Okay.
fine. Fine.
If you're uncomfortable, let me know.
No, I'm fine.
Because a lot of times I get things that I don't, you know,
Hmm.
because I know it's a public forum.
That's
Um,
fine.
I think it's really good for you. I mean, it just shows your progression, and it also shows your mom, right? Your
Hmm.
mom got something from you in this life that she didn't get in that other life when you think
Yeah,
about it, right?
yeah,
Because she didn't have someone nurturing and caring for her through the experience. She got ripped away from you. Not
yeah.
this time.
And you know what else? When she did pass, she passed on my 30th birthday. And someone said, my cousin, who since has crossed over, my cousin said, Sheila, she was blessed to see you come into the world and you were blessed to see her leave. And that right
Absolutely.
there was comforting to me. And I live with that because that's a true statement.
I love that. I love
Yep,
that.
yep.
I do. And we know there's no such thing as death.
No, no, there's
There
not.
really
Because
is
I felt
not,
her energy, because I
right?
meditate, as obviously you know. And oh my gosh, and you know it because you feel it, so you know who it is. I went like, Mom, and I haven't felt it since. But let me tell you, when you do feel it, ladies and gentlemen,
Mm-hmm.
you know it.
You
You
sure
know
do.
who it is. You know who it is. And I was like, man, because she's always with me. She is. She's
Mm-hmm.
always with me.
Yep. Yep. It's true. It's an experience for those of us that need and want to have it, and it's a good validation for us. And once you know it, you never unknow it.
Yep.
You never lose it,
Yep.
right? my dad used to come in a lot and talk to me, and I was thinking about him last month, and I said, "Well, you never come around a lot." And he's like, "You don't need me to do that." I was like, "Well, you're right." Oh,
You
okay,
got he's saying you got this. You're good. I'm always
right?
here when you need me.
That's it. He's like, "You don't need me to do that." And I thought,
Mhm,
"Well, yeah, you're right." I just
mhm.
kind of laughed about it. And I thought, yeah, because if you really need it, you'll have it. You'll have it. And it's
Mhm.
good to know. It's good for me always to know, because I never thought we only had one life to get it right. I never believed that God only gave us one chance, that there was only one opportunity, and when they're gone, they're gone. It
Mhm.
just never sat right with me. And as
Mhm.
I've had the experiences that I've had, I've come to believe that I was correct and to feel good about that.
That is just phenomenal. And again, once you know something and you know it, no one could tell you any different just because they believe that it's not possible. Because energy, when you pass, I believe your energy still lives beyond that. So you don't die. You are always living, and to a better, fuller life.
Right.
You know.
That's
Yeah.
right. For those of us who meditate, and even based on the dream experiences that I've had, I am a prolific dreamer. I love my dream life. And
Mhm.
I know that it is as real, if not more real, than what I'm experiencing here. And I've known that for a long time.
That's wonderful. So when you know how people talk about your higher consciousness, is when you do dream, is that your higher consciousness, or is that your soul coming forth? Who exactly is, I'm going like this because that's where they're who exactly, is
Yeah.
talking to you? Yeah.
All of them, all of the above. When you're dreaming, it's an opportunity. Even when you're meditating or you're awake, it's an opportunity to be open to your relatives, your higher self, your soul, your cosmic family, your soul family, guides, angels, teachers. It depends, and it takes practice to be able to feel the difference and to recognize them. It's like if you haven't seen somebody in 50 years, you're like, I kind of think I know who you are, but I'm not sure,
Mm-hmm.
um, until you get reacquainted. So, with practice, you'll be able to feel them out. I will say this: your higher self is a lot more talky than your soul. Your soul, not so much with the chatter, right? Your
Mm-hmm.
soul will say, stop, turn,
Mm-hmm.
right? Go here. Your soul will say, do that. Your soul will say things like, maybe 3 or 4 word sentences at a time. Your
Mm-hmm.
soul is not verbose. It's not going to talk like I'm talking to you right now. That's not your soul, because that's a stepped down frequency. You have to really step your consciousness down to get into language,
Mm-hmm.
because language is just a symbol of consciousness, right? So your soul would have to step itself so far down to have a conversation. That's what your higher self is for. If you think of your higher self is just a higher aspect of you that's
Mm-hmm.
more closely aligned with your spirit and your soul. So it's kind of an intermediary. So your
Mm-hmm.
higher self will give you instruction, will give you words, paragraphs, things like that. Your soul is very, to me, I can only say to me, my soul has always been very commanding, very commanding. So many, many years ago, when I was married to my second husband, he was unfortunately addicted, and we were just not in a good place. And I had been holding on, and he came home late one night and he told me that he had backed the car into a telephone pole. And when he told me where it had happened, I knew that he had had to back up across the street to hit that
Mm-hmm.
pole. And I was standing in my kitchen at 3 o'clock in the morning listening to him. And as he was talking, I heard in this ear, he's going to kill someone, and you're going to support them for the rest of your life. And I heard it as clear as if someone was standing right here, right? It was a
Mm-hmm.
voice not in my head.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at him and I said, you have to go. You have to go. That was the voice of my soul, right?
Mm-hmm.
My higher self says, yes, you should go and move in this area because this will be beneficial for you and your children, and it will give you the opportunity to reach new people so that you can share your light. That's the difference, right?
I gotcha. Yes.
That's the difference. So there have been times where I'll tell you a funny story, not a horrible one like that, but I was doing a guided hypnosis with a friend of mine, and we were doing past life regressions, and we were playing, right? Hypnotists, we play. And so at the end of the regression, she said, well, let's go as high as you can possibly go and see what kind of information we can get. And I was like, okay, cool. So I went all the way up to this place, and there were these beings that looked like air traffic controllers. And they were monitoring, there were monitors everywhere. And I was like, well, what are you doing? And they're like, well, I thought that was good. And
Right.
one of them, right, turned to me and he said, we have to monitor everything to make sure that everything flows the way it should.
Mhm.
And I said, oh, okay. And then I had this thought, and it was a very personal question for myself. And I said, well, I'd really like to know about this. And he looked at me and he said, that's not what we do. You're going to have to go down to one of your guides to get that answer. And I was like, oh. And the next thing I knew, I was standing in front of my guy, and he looked at me and he was like, yes. And I was like, oh, I guess everybody has a different job. So you play with it, you learn. I try not to have a fixed idea of who does what that looks like, what it should look like, because I'm telling you what my experiences are. Yours could be wildly different, absolutely as valid for you. So I get nervous when people say, this is so and so, this is what they look like, this is who they are, and this is what they do. Because that's not always true. You have to kind of feel around and roll around in it yourself. And just like you said, and then right? And then no one can say to you, well, that's not what a higher self is, because my answer is, well, that's what mine is.
Right. So it's funny you mentioned that your soul will say just one sentence and your higher self is more talkative. So I was coming out of my meditation. I always have these things, but it just so, and I asked a question like, who is my guide? Or I was asking, and as soon as I closed my meditation closet, a voice came right here in my ear and said, Enoch.
There you go.
And I was like, Enoch? My guy's name is Enoch? Who's Enoch? I had no idea. I got to work and I Googled,
Yep.
but since then, it only said it once, just as clear as day.
That's it. That's your soul.
And then I had a couple other experiences because I have to get up for work so early because I work, at the base. So I must have fell back to sleep and something in my ears, and I jumped up. I was like, so I think they know they scared me because they did it like twice. I think they know they scared me, so they don't do that to me anymore. But I was like, well, let me sage my house or something. But it's funny that you should say that because it was just one Enoch.
That's it.
But I was like, Enoch, who's Enoch? But because I didn't think about who he actually was until later. But I was like, wow. So yeah,
that's for you to do the work.
Yeah.
See, your soul. My experiences, they don't hand it all to me. I'll get like what I call a paragraph, and I'll say, well, okay, now what? And they're like, that's your job. Now what is your job? It's not our job, right? Which I find very frustrating at times, but it's also empowering because we are not children to be led around by the nose. And the fact that you didn't get well, here's who Enoch is, and this is what your relationship is, and this is what you're going to be doing, because then it becomes very fixed. There's nothing for you to explore. There's no discovery. There's no hidden treasure. You're being told, like a child gets told, okay, now go in the room and pick out some clothes, right? And then come back out here and I'll tie your shoes. It's a sign of respect for who you are as a soul and a spirit. And it's what I call a partnership of equals, right? Because they're not our parents. And so anybody that you work with, God bless my father, he used to tell me all the time, the person in the body is the person who's in control, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the person who's not in the body, they're not in control. And if they're not trying to take it from you, they're good.
Yeah.
That was always my barometer in life. And so now you've got, you got a little carrot. So now you're going to go do your research, right?
Yeah.
You're going to,
Yeah.
okay, let's connect. Okay, what do you want to tell me? And that's what makes life exciting.
Yeah. And that's what makes you keep going. Because they
Yeah.
drop little nuggets to make me like, you are another nugget for me. And I let you know that.
I want to tell you, that while we've been talking, when I asked about coming on, and I asked about what was my purpose for coming on, because my
Mm-hmm.
purpose is always to be in service, right? And so what I heard was that the energy and the frequency that we would share is going to go out and multiply for you. And I want to tell you that I have no idea where you are in your journey, but I'm going to tell you that this is going to take off for you. And I'm going to tell you that I don't want you to limit your thoughts or your possibilities in any way, shape, or form, because you are in the future going to be doing informative sessions yourself, where you won't be talking to me, you'll be talking to the camera, and you'll be sharing your knowledge, and you'll be sharing what you've learned, and you'll be talking about some of the exciting things that you've discovered. And then you will bring on people who are in that same discovery, and there'll be a sharing of information. I also want to tell you that you're going to be exposed to people that you can't imagine yet, and that you will be building a network of individuals who are not in the business to become celebrity, but are in the
Mm-hmm.
business to become way showers, light workers, and I'm going to say it wrong, transformers of knowledge. A
Mm-hmm.
bridge is what I want
Mm-hmm.
to say. I can't
Okay.
get the word out, but you know what I mean. And that network is going to create a harmonic circle of light that will jump an octave. And I'm hearing in 2 to 3 years, this is going to explode. It's going to be big. And what I mean by big is, I mean that there will be writings, there will be teachings. You like to do things in person too, because there's going to
I
be in
do.
person events that will be put together. Um, Building community. There's something about building community that will start kind of like in a localized way, and then it will start to kind of like go like that, right? Like ripple out. Don't ever be discouraged, and don't let anyone discourage you.
Yes,
Don't let
ma'am.
anybody limit you. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
You listen. I'm hearing you listen to your intuition. You listen to your intuition. You follow your steps. And I will start be patient with yourself, because I know you can feel it and you can see it. And you're like, well, what's taken so long? Why
Mm-hmm.
hasn't this happened? And this
Why
sounds
can't I
great.
hear things? Yeah, I'm like that.
But if you are journaling, when you are journaling, have no expectation. So if you sit down to journal and you just say, okay, I'm bored. So journal, I'm bored. Just get in the habit of just journaling, because a lot of information is going to come in. I think the reason that you and I connected is because your intuition works like mine. And that is, it sounds like your own thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not. And so there's that question, right? Like, I always wanted to see someone standing in the room. I always wanted to hear a voice that didn't sound like me. I always wanted to, to have like a movie in my head. And none of that ever happened, because we
Mm-hmm.
have direct knowing. And when you have direct knowing, it sounds like you're talking to yourself in your own head.
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm here to tell you to trust it. And that's why you and I have connected, because what I do and how I do it is really no different than you. And that's what you need to know.
I'm telling you, I want to say this. I had asked, I was like, give me a mentor or something to show me, tell me what I'm supposed to do.
You
There you are.
know what you're supposed to do. You already know that.
But, I mean, We'll talk about that later. Bye. My gosh.
You just
Okay.
have to know that you've got it. You've got it. Whatever you think you're lacking, you're not. You're
Mm-hmm.
not. And I would say that for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody is looking out there for the thing that the piece that I'm missing. And it's not out there. It's not.
And you say 2 to 3 years, and that's hopefully when I retire. That's supposed to be roughly about that time, you know?
Yes. But you
Yeah.
know, the universe is so loving that it's giving you the ways and the means to support your life
Mm-hmm.
until the other thing can take over. And never forget, I remind myself of this all the time. For many years, I only did this work. I would not work in the corporate field. If you didn't know what a chakra was, I didn't give you the time of day. And I had a friend call me one day and said, I'm opening up another office. Can you please come and manage my office? And I was like, manage your office? I don't do that. And he was like, no, I need you. I need you while I'm setting up the other place. And I opened my mouth to tell him stop. And I opened my mouth and said, of course I'll do it. When do you need me to start? And I was so mad. I turned and turned, what are you doing? You know, like, why did you do that? And I heard so clearly, don't people who are in the corporate world deserve to be enlightened? Don't they deserve to be loved? And I was so humbled, and I was like, oh, you're right. And in any work that I have ever done in corporate since then has always been spiritual work. Always. I've done more readings at work for people that didn't know they were getting readings. I've done more life coaching for people who didn't know they were getting life coaching. And I've given more light to people who didn't have light and improved other people's lives that I would have never touched because those people would never sign up for a course that I
Mm-hmm.
teach outside of work. And remember that it's not a waste of time, right?
Yes, ma'am.
It's not what I
Oh,
do until I do something important.
yes, now I'm getting tears in my eyes now.
They
You
need you.
so
You're very welcome. I'm so glad
thank
we
you.
met.
I know. I'm glad you said yes.
Of course. I always listen to my intuition now. I'm not
Oh
young and
man.
foolish anymore. I don't do
Oh
that.
man. I could talk to you forever, but I know you have to, you have a life, I have a life. So I'm blown away. I love you. Thank you so much. And I mean
I
that
love
from
you
the
too.
bottom of my heart. Oh no, I hit the microphone. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so very, very much. You have been so insightful to me, unbeknownst to me. This is wasn't what I was expecting, but I do humbly thank you.
You are very welcome. And there are other people who will benefit from what you know and what we've shared. So I'm really happy about that. Don't forget to send me that information so I can get the book to you.
I will. I will.
Let me know if you need anything.
Oh yes, well you got to tell everybody where they can find you.
Oh yeah,
You
yeah.
have
Um,
you have a glorious website and it's full of stuff. I was on it, so you got to share that. I'm gonna have
I
everything in the
always
show
forget
notes,
that,
but
right? I always forget that part. I'm probably the worst marketer in the whole world. It goes right out. So my website is my name, SusanZummo.com. I'm on YouTube to the delight of my grandchildren. I was never so cool in my entire life as when my grandchildren found me on YouTube, right? They were like,
yes,
oh my gosh, right? They could care.
yeah,
They're like, before I was just old grandma. Now I'm
uh-huh,
really important.
yep.
So you can use my name to find me on YouTube. I do a weekly message every week that is uplifting. We don't do doom and gloom or any of that kind of nonsense. And then on the first Monday of every month, I do a free meditation for anyone who wants to come and join us. They're more than welcome. So I think that's probably everything you need to know.
And the name of your book again?
The name of my book is
Mapping the Inner Landscape: Decoding the Symbols of Dreams and Everyday Life.
There you go. All
There you
right.
go.
Good thing you know it because did I mention I'm very bad with names?
Well, everyone, I hope you enjoyed. I know I did. Tune in. Please like, subscribe, pop on over to see Susan and her meditations and her channel and her everything. Just everything. Just everything.
And
All
Sheila,
right. Yes.
send me a link and I will post you on my channel.
Will do. Will do. All right. You stay put. All right, ladies and gents. Bye for now.